So I've been visiting this website from time to time. The website is called replicate.com, and there's some amazing AI models that you can check out, and you can see if you can build an interesting app using one of these models. And these are cutting edge models, okay? And you can find pretty much anything here, right? So you have Whisper here, you have LoRa for images, you have Stable Diffusion, which has 84 million runs. You have Whisper, which is almost 1 million runs. And you have pretty much any kind of models that you may be interested in, right? We got audio generation, diffusion models, image to text, style transfer. And what's cool about this site is that as a new model becomes available, they put it on the side, right? So it's not like old models. These are like cutting edge technology, right? Cutting edge new models, right? Now, before we get started, as always, all the apps and all the resources I'm going to be showing to you guys in this video are going to be available to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you're going to see a link to it in the description below. And one model that got my attention is this multi-stage text to video generation. Okay, and they even have like a video of a bear walking around, right? Like a panda bear, what it looks like. And what's interesting about it is that I did not see many models that do video, okay? Text to video is an emerging area, so there's really not a lot of models that do video, right? And so if we click on this model, you can get an idea of how you can generate a video from text, right? So you have an input, which is just text right here. So something like a panda eating bamboo on a rock, right? And you get this video. And you also have a bunch of other settings, right? You can specify number of frames, steps, frames per second. You can also specify a seed and things like that. And so you can run this model right now. You can run this model on a website, right? And all you have to do is type something. So for instance, a man running through a forest. Okay, you can do that. I'm just going to leave everything at defaults, and we're going to do submit. And when you do submit, it starts running the process. So it's going to take around, I believe, like maybe 10 to 15 seconds. And so we're going to wait. We have a status right here. And so we got a video. Now, if I play this video from the beginning, you can see that it does look like a man that's running through the forest, right? A man that's running through the woods. And you can download this video. You can do all kinds of interesting things. Now, that's all nice and great, but what I was really interested in was how can I build an app that uses this technology and generates a video from text? Well, as luck would have it, they have an API interface, right? Pretty much all the models that you see on replicate.com, they have an API interface. And so what this means is that, and so you can take all of these processes and replicate all of these things that are happening on your own app, okay? And so if you click on API, you can see that, you know, they basically give you instructions of how you can run this in your own app. Now, when you click on API, what you want to do is you want to pick HTTP, okay? Because we're not building a Node app, we're not doing a Python app. By clicking on HTTP, you can kind of have a very neutral interface of seeing how you can interact with the API. And so this is the request right here, and this is the response. And then you have a status. And then once it's complete, the whole prediction, right? The whole process is complete. You're going to get a response like this. When I saw this, I realized that I can build an app using a tool such as Flutterflow. And that is exactly what I did. So we're going to jump into Flutterflow. I'm going to show you the app that I built. And then we're going to jump back inside of Flutterflow UI and all that. And I'm going to show you how this app works and how you can build one yourself. And so if we jump into Flutterflow right here, this is an app. And I'm going to go to a test mode that I have already running. And so we're going to create a new session real quick so that I can show you how this app works. All right, so here's the app. It's called Text to Video Pro. And it's basically asking us, what kind of video do you want? And all you have to do is describe the video. So we can type something like, a man is running through the forest. Okay, so something like that. Click on Generate Video. And we are redirected to the second page. And right now we are showing the status in real time so that the user knows that the app is working. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a bit. So we're going to wait for a moment and it's done. Okay, so now we're seeing the video. We also have a couple of new options here and then we can play the video, right? So look at that. The video is like 2 seconds long. And indeed, it is a man that's running through the forest. And if you want, you can download this video. You can just click here and you're going to download this video. You're going to get redirected to the video URL so you can save it. Or you can run again. So we're going to say run again. And let's say we want something like a car racing through the street, through the highway. A car racing on the highway. Something like this. Generate video. We are going to wait a couple of moments. All right. And it's ready, right? It's also 2 seconds. You're going to hit play. And it looks like a car is indeed racing on the highway, on the road, right? So you can do download, you can run it again, and you can try making more videos. Now, it's important to mention that you do have a bunch of settings, right? You can have more frames and you can have frames per second, right? So you can, make it a little bit high resolution by having more frames per second. This is only 8 frames per second. Just for comparison purposes, a typical video like on TV that you see is around 24 frames per second, right? So you can amp this up a little bit more. You can increase the number of frames, which is going to make the video longer. You can increase this step, which is the denoising, right? This is the denoising. So the more, the better quality. And then you can have a seed as well. And typically the seed is used if there is another video that you've seen and you want to make a video based on that video, right? That is kind of how seeds are used. It's very, very common to use seeds when you're doing like image generation with like Stable Diffusion or other AI models. Okay, so there's a bunch of things, a bunch of settings that you can configure. And obviously you can pass these settings to the API as well. I'm just using the only required field, which is the input, right? The input prompt, okay? So now let me quickly show you the architecture, right? And then we're gonna jump into Flutterflow and then I'll show you how I build this app. But it's important to understand kind of the architecture, right? So this is the architecture of the app. This is our app flow. And we have 3 steps, okay, that we're kind of going through the flow. The first step is we are sending a request to the API in order to make the video or do something, right? And so when we make a request, we don't get a video right away, right? The video, it needs time to finish the process. It's not like, it takes 1 second to make a video. It's going to take some time, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, depending on what kind of video you want to make. But it's important to understand that we don't get a video right away, right? All we get back is an ID. And then in this step here, we need to constantly check if the process is finished. So that is exactly what I'm doing in the app, right? I'm sending the request ID and I'm getting back the status. And, until it's ready, I'm going to keep getting not ready, right? So, in those first, 10 seconds or whatever, I'm going to get not ready. But then on the 11th second, right, I'm going to get ready. Okay. So roughly speaking, there's also another way of doing it. And that is when you make your initial request, you send the system something called a webhook, right? Basically, you send it a URL and you say, well, here's the URL, call it when it's ready. And if you do that, you don't need to keep asking for it. That's called polling. You don't need to poll all the time, right? In this example, I'm polling it, right? I'm not sending in a webhook URL, right? I'm not doing that, but that is another way of doing it. And so essentially you have 2 ways about it, right? You can just send a request and then keep polling for the status, or you could send a request and give it a URL and says, just call me when it's ready, okay? So now that you've seen the architecture, let's jump back into Flutterflow and I can show you exactly how I built it. So this app has 2 pages, very, very simple. The first page gets the input. Okay, so I'm just asking, what kind of video do you want? And obviously I can have more options in terms of the settings, right? The parameters with the video, right? The FPS, the denoising and all of that. I can just add them here and I can just send them along with this prompt here. It's the same thing essentially. So that's all I have here. Then I have this button here. And this button has a bunch of actions, right? So if I open this up, what we're doing is we're calling the API call. And what we're doing is we're checking that the initial API call, was it successful or not? And so if it was successful, we're going to save the request ID, right? Because we need the request ID to check on the statuses. In that case, we save the request ID in our app state, and we navigate to the second page where we're going to show the statuses and show the results. If it's not, if it's not successful, and this is that initial call, right? We're just going to show an error message, right? But if you're setting it up correctly, it's going to be successful, right? So that's the thing. Now, before I show you the second page, let me quickly show you the API calls and the app state. So the app state is very, very simple. We have the output status, right? Where we are essentially saving the request ID. We have the processing. This is the thing where you're seeing the dots, right? That's what processing is. We're just appending more dots to it. And that's why you see, ever more dots, like increasing amount of dots on the status page. And then we have the output video. And this is when the video is ready, it's going to fill this app state field in the output video. And that way we can display the output video. Let me show you the API calls. We have two API calls. We have the initial call that submits the request. And then we have the second call that checks on the status of the submitted request, right? So if you come over here, we have a post request authorization. This is my token. You obviously are going to have your token in here. So you're going to go into replicate, go into your account, pull up your token here, and you're going to have content type application JSON. In the body, you're going to have something that looks like this. This version is the model version, right? So if you're using the text to video model, you're going to have this version, right? So if I go back into my replicate here, if I go into APIs, and if I go into HTTP, I can see this version, right? This is the version of the model, and you need to specify. That way replicate will know which model you are dealing with, right? So if you go back here, and then we have the prompt. And if you're going to be sending more parameters, you're going to include them as part of the input. Right now, I only have the prompt, which is the only required parameter. But if I want more parameters, I'm just going to, I'm going to include them right here. And that's all we have for the initial request. The second request here, this is a GET request. Why is it a GET request? Because we are not submitting anything, right? We're not submitting, we're not writing to the system. We're getting back data that the system already has. So it's like a read-only request, right? That's the difference between GET and POST. POST, you're doing something, you're writing. GET, you're just getting some data back, right? And so we're submitting the ID right here, and we have a variable here called ID, which we saved in the initial request. And the headers are all the same, and we don't have any body, right? GET requests do not have body. POST requests have body, okay? And so when we execute this request, you're going to see that you're going to get a response, and you need to capture ID and URLs GET. This thing is optional. I just capture it because, well, I thought I may need it, but I'm not really using it. But the ID is important, right? We need to capture this ID because we need to know the request ID. And when we capture it, we save it as an app state. It needs to be part of state, the app state, okay? And then the second request, pretty much the same thing. We have response and test. And I have a sample ID here. So if I do a test API call, this is for one of our requests that has finished already. As you can see, if we come to recommend it, you can see, what do we need? Well, we have logs. I'm saving logs, but I'm not displaying it. So this is optional. We need the output, right? This is the output. This is the result. So this is the video URL. And I'm also capturing the status, right? Because we need the status because, we want to check if it finished everything. Because if it's running, it's not going to be succeeded. It's going to be something else. It's going to be processing, or it's going to have something else in it. We only care about whether it's succeeded or not, right? So all you need to do is capture output and status, okay? That's the only thing. And now if you go back to the app here, generate video, right? So we're doing the API call, we're checking if it succeeded, we're updating the request ID, right? This is the request ID, output status, and then we're redirecting to the second page. Now on the second page, this is where a lot of magic happens. So if we come over here, right, we have actions that are happening on the top level, which means when the page is loaded, we need to start working, right? So we have this top level actions here. We're going to open it up. And what we're doing here is we are checking the system, right? We start checking immediately. So that's why we have this backend call. And the call is that second call, right? The status call. We're passing the ID from the status. And then we're checking if the API call is successful, meaning this is not whether it has succeeded or not. This is just, whether our API call has gone through or not, right? Which is standard practice. So if it's successful, we're checking if its status is succeeded, okay? And status, right? What is the status? Well, status is that API response option, JSON body, path, status. Remember, we save status back in our API configuration. And then if it succeeded, what we're going to do is we're going to update app state. We're going to set the video, the output to our app state. That way we can display it on the main page. If it's not succeeded, meaning that it's still running, what we're doing here is we are adding that little dot, right? Every time it runs, every cycle, and every cycle, we are adding that little dot. And that is why you have many cycles. And that's why you're seeing that nice animation, okay? So here we're just adding that little dot. And if we come over here, you see this dot, we're appending it to our status app state variable. And that way, when we display it, you see that animation, because each time we're adding a dot, we are cycling, we're making a new request. That is why it's not there. Now, you can change it around. So if you don't want to do it on every cycle, because you're going to have many cycles, right? You may have like a wait, right? So you can add a wait of like 10 seconds. Well, 10 seconds is too much. You can have a wait of like 2 seconds, right? So that way you're going to have your animation. It's going to have a delay of 2 seconds, but you're going to have less animations and you're going to have less cycles. So in this case, it's up to you, right? You saw that dot was like 2 lines. So you might want to, add a little bit of a delay, right? If you add a delay, you're going to have less periods, but you're still going to have that animation. So it's really up to you, but it's nice to have options, right? It's nice to have options. And when we are done, we have some interesting things here, right? So we have a stack. And when I have a stack, what I'm doing here is I want to display alternate things. So we have 2 rows. One row is processing, is displaying processing, right? This text combination, this is working, and the dots. And the other row, when it's complete, right? You see it says status is complete, we display complete. And then the same logic happens with the video and with this row here, right? Because this row right here also has conditional visibility. We're not displaying it, right? Because there's no reason, to let the user press these buttons before the process is finished. And this thing is also, so none of this is visible until it's actually finished. And then once it's finished, we display the video here, right? Output video here. It's already ready, right? So it knows that when it finishes, it's going to pull up the video. That video is going to be available in that status. And same thing for this. Now, download is very simple. We just have a launch URL that's set to the output, right? To the URL of the video. And then run again is very simple. We're just navigating back to the main page. I'm just doing instant navigation. We're not doing allow back navigation. And we don't want the user to go back or anything like that because they essentially restart the process. And so that is the way you build an app. Now, obviously, you can take it a lot further. You can add more of your logic, and you can even create an app that uses multiple models, right? You can create an app that uses multiple models. Maybe they want to do text to audio or text to video or text to image, or image to text, etc. So you can have an app that does multiple things. But that is the way that you create an amazing app that interfaces with one of these cool models over on replicate.com. There's a lot of interesting models that you can use, but that is kind of the way that you do it with Flutterflow. And so definitely head over to replicate.com, check out some of the amazing models here, and keep checking the site because they do publish new models as they become available from time to time, which is an awesome thing. So definitely keep that in mind. And if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to, leverage some of the things that I built in this app. You want to build a new app, or you just want to tweak the app that I just showed you guys, or you're interested in that functionality and you want to use that functionality for an app that you may be building right now. Maybe you have an app that you're working on, but you want that, text to video functionality, or some of these other models. You just want that framework and you want to leverage this framework. You want to integrate it into an app that you're building right now, or maybe thinking of building in the near future. If that is the case, then you definitely want to view and or clone this app as I have it here. There's no reason to build this app from scratch when you can save all this time by simply cloning the app that I have built for you guys today. And you can do that when you join my amazing, incredible Patreon community. And when you join the amazing Patreon community, not only will you have access to all the Flutterflow apps that I built on this channel thus far, but you also get access to extra content such as Q&As, live streams, behind the scenes content, as well as my amazing Patreon supported masterclass series, where the community votes on a particular topic that they're interested in kind of diving deeper in. And I make a video where I do a deep dive on that specific topic and answer questions from the community. And in fact, I'm probably going to be doing another masterclass perhaps later this week, or maybe on the weekend, or maybe early next week. We're still trying to decide what kind of topic the community might be interested in. And so if you do not want to miss our upcoming masterclass, I definitely urge you to check out our amazing Patreon community and consider becoming a member. You're going to see a link to it in the description below this video. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video and you're looking for more content where you can use different models to create amazing apps, then check out the video you're seeing in the corner of your screen right now. That is another video where I used one of these models here and built an amazing app that does incredible things. That's for sure gonna delight your users, customers, and friends as well.